experience where two have truly become one. God is at the center of us, our purpose and vision in His love. We dedicate our today, tomorrow, and always to You, our King. Bless and let there be love in our home, the marriage experience ordained by You alone. The marriage experience. The marriage experience ordained by You alone.
Welcome to the Marriage Experience program with Ayokunle and Bosede Santos, where they explore what it means to cultivate a God-centric marriage, delivering realistic and biblical wisdom, pointers and insights from couples and individuals on their marriage journey. Join them today as they continue the conversation around the marriage covenant. Enjoy.
Hello again, and welcome to the Marriage Experience program with Ayokunle and Bosede Santos.
Hello, and it's good to have you again this week. And we really enjoy having you, and we welcome you once more.
Yeah, so one of the things we said right at the very beginning of this whole program is to just be vulnerable and authentic with you. I'm sure you can hear my voice. It's not sounding as it normally is. So please bear with me if you hear me cough. Just know that I'm dealing with a throat situation, which I'm getting over. Thank you very much. I'm feeling much better today. So last week, we looked at the different components of a covenant, especially in the light of the marriage covenant. And we highlighted the ritual, which is the ratification of a covenant. So we looked at the different aspects of a covenant as it relates to the marriage ceremony. We talked about the promise, which is the vow that we make one to another. And then we established, right? We established that our marriages, because when we looked at the different promises that God made to the people He had a covenant with, there was nothing that was repeated from one person to the other. So we just, on the basis of that, we thought that our marriage vows ought to reflect the vision that we have for our marriages, and should be personal to us. It should reflect where we're headed. It should reflect what we are, bringing to the table. Yeah.
So one of the things we established also was that there's no, standard
Like
one size fits all for for the marriage. So the vision or the vows, or the vision and the vows must also reflect your personal circumstances, in line with your vision.
Personal circumstances and destination as a couple. Then we talked about the sign of the covenant, which today is the exchange of rings. And Ayokunle told us the story of how putting the wedding ring on the fourth finger of the left hand, came about, the Egyptian tradition. And it was interesting because I attended a wedding, and what they exchanged was a Bible. Yeah, ultimately they exchanged rings, but at the ceremony, what they exchanged was the Bible.
Yeah, we also looked into obligations, and what we pressed on then was the exclusivity in marriage. And the point then was, or the question we asked was, is it okay to have exclusive friends of the opposite sex? In other words, should the husband have exclusive female friends, or the wife have exclusive male friends? And we did establish that really that shouldn't be the case. Whatever friends that we have, of course, you'd have colleagues at work, etc. But when it comes to intimate friendships, whatever friends you have must be mutual. Between
the participation,
on the daily participation of both of you. And then you remember we gave you an assignment, and the assignment was, for you to look into your marriages, or the plans you have for your marriages, and to compare what you consider as being traditional, or what was just following, or what was arranged in terms of the tradition, and compared with what you feel should be personal. And this exercise was set out to, make you look into how to ensure that your marriage remains relevant to your vision, how to ensure that every day you go through in your marriage, or whatever plans you have for your marriage, it remains relevant to your vision. And also remember that the assignment was for you to look for ways in which you can ensure that it remains relevant. So it's not just a case where at the beginning of the marriage you prepare this plan, or you prepare this vision, and then it's set in stone. It is a dynamic thing. Things change. You grow older, you have children, you move, change jobs, maybe even change professions, relocate probably. So all these things affect the way that you run your marriage.
Yeah. So, one of the things we also promised at the beginning was that we would bring practical and insightful, I don't want to use tips, but, well, really.
Yes. Or ideas.
Ideas, you know. So today we're circling back to the married vision, and we're looking at the practicality of crafting a vision for your marriage, because we don't just want to throw it out there. And, people are wondering, so how do I do that? How do I write a vision for my marriage? It's really not something I know to do. So one of the scriptures we touched on at the very beginning when we started talking about vision was Proverbs 28. And we really particularly liked the Message translation that says, if people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. And then we saw the Voice translation, the second part of it, that says, those who adhere to God's instruction know genuine happiness.
Genuine happiness.
Genuine happiness,
Yeah.
which is one of the goals of marriage, to actually experience genuine happiness. Now, Hebrews 11 tells us that faith, I like the way that the New Living Translation actually describes that scripture. It says, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things that we cannot see. In other words, your married vision is a faith statement of where you want your marriage to head, how you want your marriage to progress as you live it out. One of the fundamental questions that we would ask is, what is your reason for getting married? We've heard all sorts.
Several reasons.
We've heard all sorts
Yeah.
of reasons. Some people say, oh, it's because of the way his eyes are, or it's because of the way he talks, or it's because he's
How
tall,
she
dark, and
smiles,
handsome.
what her teeth are like.
I know, one of the things that my husband told me at the beginning was, oh, he just loved my legs. I'm going, are you kidding me? Who looks at someone else's legs? Goes, yes, but that's one of the things I like about you. So it's important that we drill down into why we are choosing, or what the reason is behind, what we are settling for in terms of our reasons for getting married. And someone said that our legacy, which, crafting your vision for the marriage is doing, is you working out your legacy together. So once someone said that your legacy is not what you leave behind, but who you leave behind. In other words, how will your lives lived together affect the people around you, starting with your children? If that marriage is blessed with children, which God said he would, but how will your lives affect the people around you.
Yeah, so your vision is living your lives forward. We tend to look at vision as in, oh, what we have ahead of us. Yes, the vision is ahead of us and is what guides us. If you recall, I used the example or the analogy of a lighthouse, is what keeps you on track. But what we want to do here is that we want to start with the end in mind. In other words, we want to live the vision today.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask.
We want to leave the end today.
From yes. So what would you want to be remembered for? What would people say, for instance, about you when you're gone? At funerals we often get reality checks. Where we're listening to the sermon and we're listening to or even eulogies as well, and it also gets us to be reflective about our own lives. So one of the practical tools which you mentioned is we'd like you to write your own eulogy.
Don't think it's morbid.
This is not a morbid exercise, but this is, remember we talked about vision, living the future today. So the questions you would ask yourself are, what will the following people say about me? What would my spouse say about me, or my children, my family, my friends, or my neighbors, or even my colleagues say about me? You ask yourself what your values are, what your priorities are, what's important to you and what's best for you in your life. Again, you could ask yourself, what are you passionate about? It's not just hobbies, but what virtues, what principles are you passionate about? And then one very important question also is to ask yourself, what in your life makes you wake up in the morning and excited about the day? What makes you want to go forward with joy? Once you've written these out, the practical part now comes in, where you look at where you are today, where you want to be, and you ask yourself, how can I make that connection? How can I make that connection? How do I make the changes in my life today to achieve them?
In other words, thinking about going on a vacation, for instance, you don't just get off from your home and go to the airport and tell the ticketing officer, okay, take me somewhere, take me wherever. No, before you even go to the airport at all, in other words, before the marriage starts, you plan, you think, okay, what's my destination? What do I want out of this holiday? What do I want to accomplish with this holiday? Is it just for me to laze? Is it for me to, engage in some activities? Let's say, for instance, you decided that, I want to go paragliding on my holiday. So you first of all have to think of where are the destinations? Where can I go to, engage in this activity? And then you plan, okay, what are the different destinations? It can be in Mexico, it can be this place or that place or the other. Then you decide, this is the best place for me. You choose that. How do I get there? You know how much it's going to cost you to get there. You know exactly, when you get there, where am I going to stay? So these are the different things that you're going to...
Specifics. You're looking at specifics.
That you are going to look into in order to make sure that you actually get that experience that you want to get on that holiday. And then you go on to begin to write these things out and make a plan. God is not expecting us to just be, to onlookers with the nitty-gritty of our lives. He expects us to participate in how things pan out. Remember when, after God had created the animals, the Bible said he brought the animals to Adam, and whatsoever Adam called them was what they were called. Jeremiah 29 lets us know that God has a plan for our lives, and it's now our responsibility to get with God, get into his heart. What are these plans? And when we find out what these plans are, Habakkuk tells us to write it down. I like the way that, I think it's the New Living Translation that says it this way: I will take my place at the watchtower. I will stand at my post and watch. I will watch and see what he says to me. In other words, the things that God says to us, like we said at the very beginning, that God took Abraham out, made him see the stars, changed his name. So whatever God says to us will create an image on our hearts. And he says to write it down, not just leave it in your head, and write it out clearly. Make it easy to read, easy for anybody to read, so that it says that, so that anyone who reads it may run. And it says that the vision points ahead to a time I have appointed. It testifies regarding the end, and it will not lie. So in other words, what these things that God is speaking to your heart will surely come to pass. And it says, even if there is a delay, wait for it. It is coming and will come without delay.
You're listening to the Marriage Experience program with Ayokunle and Bosode Santos.
So the vision God gives will implant an image in our hearts. I remember with Abraham, when God changed his name and then showed him the stars. Now, God took him out and showed him the stars. Now, that was, remember, we're talking about having a practical way of having that thing, that end game right before you. So Abraham was able to, God showed Abraham the stars, and that image of the stars, which represented all the children that were going to come from the if I may use the term, Abrahamic line, made him so confident that even when he was instructed to take Isaac and to sacrifice Isaac, he knew for sure that, look, it doesn't matter what happens. That image of the stars, of the number of children that are going to come from me, of the multitude that are going to come through me, will always be. So he may not have been able to make the connection between, Isaac's death and that image, but he had the image in front of him. Mm-hmm. So he knew that there was no way. I mean, if of course Isaac was the child that was given to him, mm-hmm. and through Isaac that image was going to come through, he would have known that it was impossible, even if for he Isaac was killed, to remain dead. Absolutely. Not just to die, but to remain dead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, you want to remember that the vision creates hope and confidence about a desired end, no matter what the current reality looks like. Remember, again, we've reiterated over and over again that the vision helps you not to look at today, but to live tomorrow today. In other words, it doesn't matter what's going on today. We're looking at tomorrow. The Bible told us that Abraham didn't consider the deadness of Sarah's womb or his own body, but he continued to believe that God, without wavering, that God will do what he said he will do.
So we know that, a vision from the heart of God helps us to remain stable and steadfast, regardless of what we are, regardless of what we are going through. And from the Bible, things that God had already said about a marriage, we can get the initial, like the overarching foundational vision for our marriages, like in Genesis, in Ephesians. In Genesis, it talks about multiplication, about fruitfulness, about dominion, about oneness. Ephesians talks about, faithfulness and friendliness, about sexual purity and dedication, submission, one loving the other, and the woman being the crown. 1 Peter 3 says that in the same way, you wives must accept the authority of your husbands. Then, even if some refuse to obey the good news, this is, for instance, in the instance that one is a Christian and the other is not, it says your godly lives will speak to them without any words. They will be won over by observing your pure and reverent lives. Don't be concerned about the outward beauty or fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourself instead with a beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. This is how the holy women of old made themselves beautiful. They put their trust in God and accepted the authority of their husband. So this is just telling how the woman should comport herself and the kind of vision that a woman can actually establish for herself, that chaste a spirit that God is saying. So every vision that God gives, is also specific to the person. Abraham was given the specific vision of becoming a father of nations. And you can also ask yourself the questions, what is my role in my spouse's life? This is going to be specific to you. Who is my spouse supposed to become? And how am I supposed to help my spouse to become that? And then you begin to ask yourself, what life do I even see together for us to live?
Living together.
Yeah, how do I see us affecting the world around us as God, has given us that command to go and multiply and to change the world for the better?
Yeah. So to begin to round up, what we're going to do is look into the specific fundamental points that we have raised today. And the first is you want to allow yourself to see the vision. That vision is, yes, agreed, is ahead of you, but we want to see that vision as happening today. We're bringing that future into the present. Remember, you can only move towards what you can see. So when you set out the vision,
For good or for bad, though.
yes, actually, yes, it goes either way. So you want to remember that yes, it's you can only move forward towards what you can see. So you write what you want to see, you write where you are today, or you compare it with where you are today, and you want to create a link of a plan of how to get there. Remember, God said, whatever we can imagine in our hearts will not be impossible for us to accomplish. Of course, you would all know the story of the Tower of Babel, and I'll just read exactly what God said in Genesis 11:6, and He said, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Nothing they plan will be impossible for them. Two things. One, they had the vision. They started, let's build a tower to reach God. So that was the vision. Then they all spoke the same language.
What was that?
That speaks of unity. So unity and vision. And what did God say about unity and vision? He said, nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. And this goes for you in marriage as well. And, as long as you have the unity of purpose, as long as you have a set out vision, nothing will be impossible for you to do. So write out what you can visualize in your lives today. Don't be modest. Don't try to cut back. And remember, what you're writing out is not based upon what you feel you can achieve. This is about what I want to see, what we want to see as a couple. Write out the practical things you can do to achieve those goals, and then get anchor scriptures that will support, that will back up what is pointers and what these plans are, and then write it out in such a way that you are living the reality of the future today. So it's not just some fluffy stuff in the sky. These words must be practical words that are relevant to you today.
Remember the Bible. The Bible says that the words that we speak, referring to Jesus, that the words that I speak are spirit and they are life. The same way, because we're speaking Jesus's words, our words are going to be spirit and life. We're going to round up now, and we'll continue again next week. As always, we're asking you to send your feedback to us, your questions, your comments, and your suggestions. And we'll announce very soon when we're going to have our first town hall, which is just going to be just answering the questions that we've been receiving. Till we see you again next week. It's
Thank you for spending
thank
time
you
with
for
us
spending time
this
with us
week.
today. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye for now.
Join Ayokunle and Bosade again next week on The Marriage Experience as they bring God's truth to help you build your marriage God's way. Till then, remember, marriage is God's idea and it is a good thing.